Hey YouTube, so I have a pretty toxic Yubel strategy that I use to get to dual level max in the Xyz Cup. I know I'm uploading this pretty late. We only have a few days left in the cup, but better late than never. So this is going to be a quick video. This is for my Yubel players out there who recently picked up the deck and maybe don't want to spend the gems on an Xyz deck if you don't already have one like me. So this deck features no extra deck, but feel free to run one if you'd like. It does help out a bit, and I have a few cards that you could run if you're on a budget that I'll share later in the video. So I actually went on multiple win streaks with this deck using a Kaiju board breaking strategy, going second, and there's actually a little trick that I noticed in the Xyz Cup that also applies to any other like activity you're doing. It could be laddering or anything else that requires a coin flip and a strategy for going second, where everybody wants to go second, and if you choose to go second, there are times where people just won't set up their board and they'll just pass turn to you. This is kind of bad for this deck because this deck doesn't really set up a strong board. It more takes advantage of the board your opponent sets up and then OTKs. So in order to mitigate this a little bit, I use a psychology trick where I actually wait until the last second to choose going second. And what you're doing is you're making people believe that you either let the game choose for you or you were AFK for a moment. This makes it to where they're less likely to pass their turn to you at the start of the duel, as they are likely to believe that you didn't choose to go second. That's the idea. So it's not a big help, and obviously this won't work with everybody, but I did notice a significant decrease in people passing their turn to me at the start of the duel, which helped a lot. So let's get onto the strategy. Really, the strategy here is pretty much just letting your opponent set up their board. You kaiju off their Omni Negate or their Spell and Trap Negate, and then you just break their board with evenly matched Dark Hole or your choice of board breakers. And then you just set up your triple Yubel and you swing into your kaiju. You don't always need to have the kaiju on board. You can always swing into any beater they have on the field, but the kaijus do help break the board and give you something to swing into, and they were really useful for me. King Sark players, they really just get destroyed because in a lot of cases, you don't even need to break their board. You can just kaiju away one of their monsters, and they won't be able to proc King Sark or Imseti because you're not swinging into one of their Sark monsters, and instead you're just swinging into your kaiju. Which means you can ignore a lot of their board and just tribute one of their monsters for a kaiju, and then just triple swing with Yubel without any repercussions. Unfortunately, this strategy is pretty weak to Labyrinth. I actually lost the majority of my Labyrinth matchups, but I won the majority of my Kashtira, King Sark, and Purely matchups. In your opening hand, you really want to see a Board Breaker, a Kaiju, a Spirit of Yubel, a one-card starter, as well as an opening of the Spirit Gates or a Dark Beckoning Beast, which is why I run both at 3. The idea is to get your Samsara down one way or another, start your combo, aiming to get Terror Incarnate onto the field, and your other Yubels into your hand or in the graveyard. And then you use Grave Swimmer and Opening of the Spirit Gates to get your Yubel and Spirit of Yubel back onto the field, so you can triple swing into your Kaiju or one of their beaters. Some side notes about the deck, you'll definitely want to run 3 Spirit of Yubel with this strategy. As starting with 1 in your opening hand is actually really good because you can discard it with Opening of the Spirit Gates and then just special summon it. Also, unless there's a monster on your opponent's field that prevents you from using Evenly, I would say just Evenly first is like the first action that you do, and then Kaiju the last monster on their board, unless you can just swing into it for game. Also, in terms of board breakers, you can really run whatever. I just ran whatever I had. I'm running 3 Nibiru, 3 Dark Hole. I'm running 6 Kaijus because Kaijus are kind of like a board breaker in their own right. And then, of course, I got Regeki, Lightning Storm, all the staples, evenly matched. Got some Max C in here as well. Also, in terms of the extra deck, I threw in a few cards that everybody should have that are actually pretty good in the deck. The only one you would have to craft is Typhon, if you don't already have one, but I think everyone should have a Typhon for the most part. The Djinn Buster and the Logos, These are good, like, if you have a Max C in your hand and you're not using it, you could always just throw it onto the field along with the Dark Beckoning Beast, and you'll have your 2 level 2s to get this Xyz monster out. They don't come up a lot, but, like, let's say you don't OTK your opponent and you have to pass turn. These are pretty good to, like, throw up onto the board just as a couple of extra negates. The Super Dimensional, this thing is really good. It's not really good, but it's useful because, like, if there's ever a point where, like, let's say they don't have something on board and they have, like, 5k or less life points, you can just triple Yubel, summon off your Yubels, you can Xyz summon into this thing, and then just finish them off with this. This monster, Ravenous, number 35, it's pretty much the same concept. It's just, the way this thing works is, it gains an attack point boost based off the difference between your life points and your opponent's life points. So you could probably think about how, you know, this could actually come in handy in a few different scenarios. Typhon's really good just because, you know, it's Typhon. So, like I stated earlier, you want to be going second with this deck. You can go first and still win, but the chances of you winning going second are significantly higher. Also, your board breaker ratio should be pretty high. You want to draw into at least 2 board breakers, or a board breaker and a kaiju. And that'll help you going second a lot. So I would definitely recommend having a higher ratio of board breakers. You could do 20-20, or you could do 21-19, 21 in the favor of engine, and then 19 in, you know, board breakers. But I'd say the more the better, honestly, just to ensure that you have them in your starting hand. Because in my experience, the games that you lose are the ones where you don't have a board breaker in your hand because you are going second, and you know, sorry to say, like, Yubel isn't that great of a going second strategy if you can't break your opponent's board first. So, I'd recommend having, like, you know, a higher ratio of board breakers. For your kaijus, you want to use the ones with the highest attack, because you're going to be using them against your opponent, right? So you want to get these onto your opponent's board, and then you can just, like, triple swing into one for, like, 9k damage, 9,900. If you have Nib, you can also just, like, you know, nib their field, drop the token, and then swing into the token for game. Also, this deck doesn't really have, like, a lot of back row control, so that's why decks like Labyrinth are kind of tough. And, you know, like I said, I lost the majority of my Labyrinth matchups, so Labyrinth is a pretty tough matchup for this strategy. So I think that about does it. I just wanted to put this out there as a cool strategy for anyone using Yubel, and just kind of explain my thoughts on the deck in this event. I don't think this is a top tier option, but if you don't want to spend the gems and you already have a Yubel deck, this is actually a pretty powerful option. You just need to play very carefully with it. So I think that about does it. Thank you guys for watching. Take care, and more Master Duel content soon to come.